And so, before we get into your interview, just tell people why I call this project Page 57.
Okay, I suspect that the reason is that over the years I've talked to you about uh, the annotation that was in my elementary and high school books, primarily my elementary school books, on page 57 where we had hand-me-down books, and it essentially showed the school that we got the books from. Uh, I went to school between 1956 and 1967, elementary school through high school, and I went to South Hill Elementary School, which is a black school in the South Norfolk, which was a city in Virginia at that time. Now, South Norfolk is now called part of Chesapeake, Virginia. And black students were given what we call hand-me-down books from white schools. And none of us really paid a lot of attention to it in the beginning. But as time moved on, we started looking at it, and quite frankly, I started comparing books year to year. I guess I was in about sixth, seventh, eighth grade at the time, and I started seeing these annotations on page 57 each year. And so, they used to mark books like library books. They used to put these stamps inside the books saying public library or public schools or whatever. So they had these stamps on page 57 at the time. And so it became sort of a standard. And I remember that our elementary school in South Hill, we would get these books from Portlock Elementary, which was the white school right around the area. So you had South Hill, Portlock, and Money Point. And the white kids, Portlock Elementary, I should say, had new books. And then once they were worn to a certain point, they would be turned over to us at South Hill Elementary. So that's essentially where I came up with the idea of writing a book called Page 57 to sort of highlight some of the segregationist activities that took place during my childhood, elementary, and high school years. As I say, 1956 to 1967 were those years. I don't know when the practice stopped, and I'm not quite sure when I stopped looking in there on page 57, but it's something that never left me from a standpoint of, just a point of interest in why it was done and how it was done. So that's pretty much what it is.
All right, now we're gonna start the interview. Where you're gonna say a lot of that stuff again. Just what. All
Well,
right.
I'm used to repeating myself, so don't worry about it.
Sounds like a personal shot. I mean, what happened there? Okay. Okay. Where did you go to school? State, county, city, so on.
Yeah, I went to South Hill Elementary School in 1956 as in the first grade. I left there and went to Carver High School for a year, and then which is also in South Norfolk. And then South Norfolk was changed from South Norfolk and it merged with Norfolk County in 1960. And it changed from South Norfolk and Norfolk County to Chesapeake, Virginia. And at the time it became the largest landmass for a city in the United States. But in 1964, 65, I left Crestwood and left Carver High School and went to Crestwood High School, where I graduated from in 1967.
What year did you graduate from high school, and what was your highest level of education?
You broke up a bit, but I'm assuming you asked what year did I graduate from high school and what was my highest level of education. Are those the two questions? I graduated from high school in 1967, and I graduated from Norfolk State University in 1971 with a bachelor's degree in chemistry, and I graduated from Frostburg State University in 1977 with a master's degree in healthcare administration. And I graduated from the United States Army War College in 1995 with a master's in strategic planning.
How was education perceived in your community?
It was very important. The generation before ours were very keen on the fact that in order for us to gain equal rights, not only civil rights, but equal rights, we had to be smarter and better, and we had to be educated in order to do that. And so education was pushed from elementary school all the way through high school, all the way, of course, through college. But the community itself pushed education. It was a very small community. It's only two streets, 2.5 streets, I guess it is. And Hill Street, Middle Street, and Park Row. And all the older people in those streets were always pushing to make sure that all of us were doing the things that we were supposed to do.
How much were your parents involved in your educational endeavors?
Very much so. My mother was she pushed it very hard. She was a substitute teacher, and actually she taught Head Start in a program called STOP, Southeast Tidewater Opportunity Program, back when I was in middle school, elementary school, junior high school, I guess it is at that time, was at that time. And my father did not finish high school. He was a laborer throughout his life, and he passed in 1969. But he always pushed us as best we could from an education standpoint.
Was there anyone you knew that was involved in the school system who was also a part of other aspects in your community, such as like church or sports league or anything of that nature?
Well, absolutely. Everybody that was involved in the school system was in the church. that was pretty much a standard practice. The teachers were in the church. The teachers, the principal of the school was a pastor, not of my church, but of another church. Everybody, like I said, we had two and a half streets there, so everybody went to either our church, or as I call it, the Sanctified Church, or the Baptist Church. And I'm AME, African Methodist Episcopal, but everybody went to one of those three churches, and it was even the people that you wouldn't expect to be in churches at that time were at church. I mean, it was no question about it. So all your teachers were there, all the people in the neighborhood that were working in the civic leagues and all those kinds of things were in church on Sunday mornings.
Did you go to a racially segregated school relative to your experience? Well, actually, did you go to all the way through your experience? Did you go to a segregated school, I should say?
I did. Our elementary school was all black in South Hill Elementary. Carver was all black, obviously, and so was Crestwood. And then even Norfolk State, but Norfolk State had a few folks in it, but it was a HBCU. And Frostburg is the only one, but that was way later in my lifetime and career. But yes, quite frankly, it was a very good experience because everybody was pushing toward the same kind of a goal. At least the teachers were, and those in leadership were pushing to keep us moving forward.
What were the benefits or disadvantages of going to a segregated school? Benefits and disadvantages from your perspective.
The benefits were you knew everybody, and you knew that if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you were going to get reported at home, and that was not necessarily a good thing at that time. I think that was probably, and so the expectation was that you were going to finish school. The expectation was you were going to do your homework. The expectation was you were going to be a student with some kind of guide toward college or trade school or something else to get out of the situation where you were. We were a relatively poor group, and on those two streets, we didn't. Nobody had money or affluence at that time, so most of the older folks in the community were pushing to get you through. And the same thing, as I said before, the people in the school were the same people that were in the neighborhood, so they were also pushing. The disadvantages, I can't think of any other than we did not have the same access to libraries and those kinds of things, but I can guarantee you the teachers made up for that in their commitment to us as students. Most of us probably never realized we had secondhand books, and to be quite honest, it didn't make any difference because it's the same material. It's just not the newest book to read it out of. So there were some disadvantages like those, but the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages because of the love of the community and the teachers. In fact, if I may, 3 weeks ago, your mother Dee and I went back to Crestwood, our high school, which is now middle school. We went back there. The principal there invited us, a group of us, back from the school to come back and see what the improvements they've made and some things that they are working on now, and also to get lifetime membership to help support the school in and of itself. It's no longer a high school; it's a middle school, but it's still a place where predominantly black students go, even though segregation is quote unquote outlawed since '54. the fact of the matter is there are segregated schools that are still out there, and because of the neighborhood that where the school is located, then you have primarily black students there. And we had an opportunity to go in, sit down, go to our old lockers, and go sit in the auditorium where we graduated and across the stage to get our diplomas and walk around and see some of the trophies that we had won when we were in high school, football trophies and basketball trophies and those kinds of things. So it was very good to bring that back to fold as we continue to struggle to make sure that our heritage is not totally forgotten. We're not only talking about saving buildings, but we're also talking about saving history, and that's part of what we're trying to do now, not only in school but even in our church here.
Uh, how did going to a segregated school impact you today?
I think it was the best thing. I shouldn't say that in these environments, but I think it was a
You can
very good thing
say,
because of the nurturing. One of the disadvantages of going is you're not used to being around multiracial folks. But as soon as I got in the army, I knew that was not a problem, and I knew that we could compete with them very easily, and most of the time outdo them, to be quite honest. But I don't think there was that many disadvantages in going. I'm sorry, RJ. What was the question again? Was it?
I was just asking how it impacted you today, like in your life
It
today. Like
impacted
how,
me because it gave me a sense of belonging, and it also made me stronger. Uh, Allowed me to deal with situations that other folks of other persuasions aren't able to deal with. Uh, we were used to having to struggle, having to fight, and having to dig down deep to get something. And when that happens over and over and over again, it becomes almost normal. And so other folks be complaining about situations. We're going, what is wrong with this person? It's nothing, what is that? That's nothing kind of thing. So it builds the strength and it builds moral character.
again, another personal shot. I mean, wow. Number the next question. What was your initial reaction to the idea of schools being in?
Of schools being integrated,
Yeah, of schools being integrated. What was your initial thought with
I thought
that?
it was I thought it was a step toward what America should be. I think if we're going to go out and fight America's wars, if we're going to go out and do all the things that is expected of a citizen, and as I told you, as you guys were growing up, my expectation of you all were to be good citizens, and that is to vote, to work, to do all the things that you're supposed to do as a person, and as a father, and as a husband. And so, I think in this particular case, that's all that we can expect from anybody going forward. So yes, I don't think I answered your question, but
You did. You did. Um, what positive or negative impact has integration had on Black students, in your opinion, in general?
what positive or negative impact has it had on black students in general?
Mm-hmm. You think it's had a positive or negative impact? I guess I
I
should
think
say.
I think it has, just like everything else, it has a little bit of both. I think the positive impact is that you are able to compete, uh, theoretically at least, on an equal basis. Uh, and the same thing from the negative side is you're able to compete, but not necessarily on an equal basis. You have to prove your worth each time. I remember I graduated in '67. The group that was behind me, that were going to Carver High School from South Hill, went on to Great Bridge. Oh, I'm sorry, not Great Bridge, Oscar Smith. And so they
Mm-hmm.
took a group. I think it was in '68, '69, something like that, '69 or '70, and they took them and moved them to Oscar Smith. And the kids that we had on the honor roll at Carver were all of a sudden not good enough to make the honor roll there, but they were good enough to make the football team. And so it was one of those, and they had to fight and struggle to get fair grades. So that was a disadvantage, especially that first group that went through. And then I guess after 2 or 3 years, when Phil Twine, also from South Hill, broke all of the running records at Oscar Smith, they finally said, "Oh, these guys aren't that bad at all." And then we started getting people that were getting graded fairly in my estimation, making honor roll and stuff like that again. But it was a difficult thing. We had kids that were very, very smart and not getting grades to match it. So that was then, and I don't think that's going on as much now, but it still could be.
Have you ever had a teacher of a different race?
Oh yeah. In fact, I've had several. You mean at what point in my career? Elementary, high school. We
Yeah,
had
sure, sure. When did you have a teacher of a different race? I
in
guess is a
high
better
school.
question for you.
I
Oh, you
had.
did in high school.
I did. We had the lady that taught social studies. I forget her name. And then we had Senorita Jones, who taught Spanish. So,
I don't.
and
I
then
don't think I even have to ask. The next question is basically the same race, but I'm guessing from your Senorita Jones. I don't have to ask that question.
Senorita Jones.
I will go on to the next question. Did integration somehow change your view or understanding of what being black in America means to you?
The integration changed my view? Not really. And the reason I say that is by the time integration was in not full swing, but in the early toddler years, I was in the Army. And so the Army was one of those organizations that was fully integrated at that time in
Yeah,
1971. And
yeah.
so, and I felt I could compete and did compete equally most of the time. I shouldn't say it, but better than my contemporaries. So, one of the things that I always viewed, especially as being a black officer, and even after I got out being a consultant, was that I had an advantage of being black, and I used it. One of the things that I would do is make sure that I did everything better and always as prepared as I could be going into meetings, going into someone's office, especially when I became a consultant on the consulting side. And by that time, I had pretty much learned the ropes. But there are certain advantages, ways you can take what some people consider a weakness or disadvantage and flip it on its head by doing the things that you're supposed to do, and being able to understand what the other side is thinking and how they
Mm.
think and what you need to do to exercise your ability to get through that process.
How did your teachers slash faculty's attitude towards you impact your education, and you felt the entirety of the school system?
That was easy. They always liked me. So, you know, that was never a problem. I can't think of any teacher that didn't. I know that I had teachers that I was challenged by, but that was never an issue.
Okay. Do you feel the teachers could relate or understand you and your educational intentions?
Oh yeah, you have to go back to Crestwood High School to understand what I'm saying. Crestwood High School was a incubator for black students. We were treated with utmost respect. My class, let me back up a little bit. I think it was 1966. The state of
Okay.
Virginia came into Crestwood High School with the intention of closing it down. And they came in and did the evaluation. And when they did the evaluation, it came out that Crestwood was the top school in the state of Virginia. So they couldn't close it down. And our teachers, our guidance counselors, our principals, our assistant principals, I mean, it was all like, it reminds me of the Koreans getting ready for the 1988 Olympics. Everybody was motivated and everybody was working. And so the students, from the students to the janitors, the people who cooked the food, from the people who cooked the food, all the way through the teachers and the students, all of us were motivated. And these folks had to leave there with the briefing basically saying that, my goodness, this place is unbelievable. And, and our teachers and our guidance counselors pretty much pushed almost all of the students to go to college. And your mom's class, the class after mine, I think it was like 88 or 89% of their students went to college for at least 1 year because they got them scholarships. They got them. They pushed them, and I think that was probably our most successful class.
Wow.
Today we got in that class they have several doctors and 2, 3 lawyers, and and these are small classes. And in fact, we have one was a Supreme Court judge down in Florida who's involved in the was it I think it was the presidential Bush Gore.
Oh,
She was one of the
oh, yeah,
Supreme
the
Court judges
2000
down
one?
there. You're right, out of our class, out of our school. We've got two NFL, more than that, a few NFL players and everything, and folks like that came out of the school, track stars and things, scientists, doctors, lawyers. So we were pushed, and we were expected to do well.
Do you feel that the curriculum was biased in any way? Why or why not, and how did that impact you?
At Crestwood, at high school,
Yeah, yeah, just the
no,
curriculums.
I think our curriculum was pretty strong. We had we had a group back at that time when they were trying to start integration, and Virginia Tech became sort of Crestwood became sort of a feeding ground for Virginia Tech back in the late '60s. When they
Mm,
were first pushing integration, and so we
hmm
had 5 classes in a row that went. A lot of this, I shouldn't say a lot. A few of the students went to Virginia Tech, and then sort of proved themselves. And they went on to graduate school. We had a couple of guys. One went to Stanford from Tech. I forget what's the name. I can't remember, but we had several of those guys and ladies go to Tech. And yeah, Swillow, Hillary's, uh, I can't think of Swillow's name, but she ended up being she's a doc now. She's a physician out in California, and she's been doing that for several years. So Gary Harvey, all of those guys ended up doing very well out of Crestwood, out of the woods of Norfolk County, and into the bigger world.
I'm going to combine this next question.
Okay,
What was your most positive and most negative memories of from a teacher?
from a
From a
teacher.
teacher, yeah, from a teacher and with a teacher. Like, what was your most positive memory from being with a teacher, and what was the most negative memory you have from one of your teachers?
I think the most positive thing that I got from teachers were the fact that they were supportive, and they weren't. And if you didn't do what you're supposed to do, they did not hesitate. They'll call your mama. They'll call your daddy. They'll call home. You know, and so the expectation was that you were going to do certain things, and if you didn't do it, you going by the time you got home off the bus, your mama do it, your daddy knew it, and you didn't want to be doing that again. So I think that the actual caring aspect of it was the most positive. The most negative, I can't think. I mean, we used to have what they call capital punishment, where they would take a ruler and, and whip you. I don't know. I don't know if that was negative or not because I got the same whippings at home, so it didn't, it didn't make any difference. But I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything negative. Probably because I don't want to. But we had pretty good teachers across the board, especially at Crestwood High School.
Did you ever feel you represented all black people in school, and if so, how did that impact you?
Never, didn't have to. I was in black schools. Excuse me.
Have you experienced, felt, or seen a stigma attached to black students for doing well in school?
Not in our day. I mean, that was the expectation. Today is, and I don't even know if it's as bad as today. A few years ago, I remember in the '80s and '70s, not '70s, '90s and late '80s, it was like black kids were afraid to say that they were smart, which I thought was the dumbest thing in the world. But because they were getting all this harassment from other folks, you think you white and all this foolishness. That's part of the reason I started mentoring in the schools. To sit down and talk to them and say, "Hey guys, you're good, be good." And then as you know, I pay for grades. you
Mm-hmm.
know. So when they make good grades, they get good money. And so my incentive is to make every one of them hit me for $100 a grading period. So if they get all A's, they get $100. And some of them tried to kill me last year because I'm still doing the mentoring program. I got hit for about $1,300. So I think I'm gonna change the criteria. But in any event, uh, there are situations where we tend to think that being smart is not being cool. And what my intention is, and I got to give a shout out to my chapter of Make Us Our Five. Our intention is to make sure that you understand that being smart means you get choices. You can do things once this foolishness is over with, and you become the guy that becomes in charge. So, and that's the our motto with them primarily is choices, decisions, and consequences. Every choice, every choice you have, you make. What is it? Every choice you have, you make a decision, but you better be able to deal with the consequences of that decision. And those consequences should be good if you make the right choice.
Do you feel that your generation values education as essential to their lives? What generation
Absolutely.
did?
We are the post Brown versus Board of Education generation. And that generation tends to, because all of us were in elementary school when that verdict came down. It took them forever to even get close to, living it, and they still haven't. But we're part of that process, and so education is very important. It's one of the ways that we can use to get from point A to point B. But our goal today should not go try to get from point A to point B. We should be going from point A to point Z, even though you have to go through B, C, D, and E, and F, and all the way through. But the goal is to get to that ultimate point where you are satisfied with who you are, and you're, pretty cool in your own skin. So that's pretty much
So,
why I'm there.
so these next few questions are actually the existential questions. They're like a bigger form. You will have it where it's like kind of like your personal spin on it, of course, but they're bigger than just your educational background, with the exception of one question. So, and then the interview is pretty much done for you.
A little bit louder. You know I'm old and can't hear.
Okay, I got you. Don't worry about it. What do you feel is the number one reason for the academic achievement gap between blacks and other races?
Between blacks and other races of black, well, you got the Asians that are ahead of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Hispanics are catching up. I think it's a psychological situation where the questions you asked before about being smart and being black
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily live in the same household. And I think if we get rid of that thought process totally and obliterated, excuse me, then a lot of that changes. The Asians expect to be doing well in school. The whites
Mm-hmm.
expect to do well in school, even though they don't necessarily have to. We expect not to do well in school because we don't want to for some reason. Or we've been brainwashed into thinking that is not important. It is important, and it's important for your self-esteem. It's important for a lot of other things, including your financial stability later on in life. So, you know, it's something that we need to work on and continue to work on.
Do you feel that that integration as a whole, the integration of schools as a whole, worked for black students?
I think it did work. I think it's necessary. When I was growing up, there were certain expectations, but we were in a situation that we had to face reality, and the reality was that we were not going to be part of this broader community. And as time has passed, and Trump's trying to take it back on the 2025, on the Project
Mm-hmm.
2025, but as time has passed, uh, we are part of a broader community. America is no longer black and white either. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
multicultural, it's multi-race. The expectations are different across the board, and if you're not there to compete in this integrated society, then you're going to be left behind, and we can't afford that. I mean, this whole thing, this stupid remark by your stupid ex-president about black jobs uh, is a clear example of it. You want to pigeonhole people and put people in silos based on race. And we don't want to put ourselves in those silos because we are black. We want to put ourselves in a broader perspective. And one of the things that I know, and you may have noticed it also, is that in every area that we've competed in, we've become the best at it. Doctors, lawyers, Johnny Cochran, those kind of athletics. We never had folks play in gymnastics until Gabby Guilford, and then we got almost all total black gymnastics women's team. Swimming. And we haven't done that yet, but that's going to happen soon. I'm talking just the Olympic Games. But astronauts, physicists, physicians, name it, politicians. Heck, we got what a black president, and now we're going to probably have another one. I don't know if she's black though. That stupid mess. That idiot moron. Yeah, and I want this recorded. He's a moron, idiot, racist pig. That's Donald Trump. Excuse me if you don't know who I'm talking about. Make sure that's in the recording. Don't edit that out, because I said
your name's at the bottom. Okay. Do you believe the American education system, as currently constructed, is fair to all people?
Nothing is fair to all people. Absolutely nothing. Now there are some things that are trying to change, such as this SAT business when you start going into the universities. Some universities are ignoring it. Some are not. And I think we have to be careful. But over time, that might change. The tests forever and a day have always been biased. The history of the country has never been told. It's not like biblical history. Biblical history, they told that David was a killer and a murderer and all the things that he did. But we can't tell the truth about the people that have run this country. And so I think from that perspective, there is some bias. But overall, I think we were getting better. And hopefully after this election, we can go back to some sense of normalcy and move this country forward. I don't know how I got into that political statement, but, that's pretty much where I am.
Based off of your experience, what do you think would improve the school system in America at all levels?
The answer to me is parents. Now, it's not the teachers. It's not the money. It probably is in certain areas, but the bottom line answer is parenting, from my perspective. If the parents are involved, if the parents do their job, then the students will be better. Our students will definitely be better. No question in my mind. So, yeah, you could get better teachers, you could get better books, you could get better computers, you could get a lot of things better, but you better get better parents in the first place. Because if you don't have that, you're wasting your time.
What can the black community do to improve black academic standing?
Well, there's certain things we can do, but if I'm going back to my standby, parenting. Our parents have to do a better job. Now, we can set up things that, we've done in the past, tutoring sessions, after school teaching programs, those kind of things that we actually have done. Still done. I'm assuming you're going to go start the tutoring session again. Mentoring programs, even adoption of some kids. But the bottom line is this. We spent, how many years did I go out there spending time with those tutoring programs? Oh, what, 10 years? A lot of those kids did really good. Tanya and those they did pretty good. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that. It's going to take a school board that recognizes the differences between the types of learning. Some people are verbal learners. Some people read a lot and learn. And some people, so there's a difference in how you learn, and that needs to be recognized. But here again, I go back to the parents have to do what they are supposed to do, and once they do that, a lot of those things will go away. But that's not going to happen. That's pipe dream. So we need to come up with more concrete measures to push things. But parenting, to me, is key.
Last question, Pop.
Yes, sir.
How has your educational experiences impacted your life?
It is my life. I take that back. I was going to say without the education level that I have, I wouldn't be where I am. That may or may not be true. I think education gives you options, okay? And the more education you have, theoretically, the more options that you have. However, it's something that's inside of you that drives you. I don't know if you remember this conversation that it's one of my Army conversations when I first got in the Army, and I was told that I had to cut my mustache and cut my hair or some foolishness like that. And they said, if you don't do that, you're not going to get promoted. And I said, do you think I care? I was talking to this major, and I was a lieutenant. I said, first of all, don't even try to threaten me with this foolishness. Because if I get out the Army, if you put me out the Army and I become a garbage man, I'm going to be the best garbage man in the world. So don't come to me with that foolish mess that you're talking. And I kept my mustache, and I kept my it was mustache at the time, and my teeny weeny afro that I had because I couldn't grow a big one. Hey, say, don't you come to me with that mess. You're taking a stick it somewhere. So I think it's that internal belief and that internal drive that you have that says, putting up with your mess. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, and if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to be successful. I might not be some guy out here with a palace, but I'm going to have a nice little house, and it's going to be clean, and it's going to be comfortable for my family because I'm going to make sure that it happens. So education is good. It gives you the options, but the drive and the fortitude that you put inside yourself is what pushes you to the next level. It always will.
All right. Well, that's the interview. I don't know. Malcolm's going to have to be the one who stops the thing, but that's it, Pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Malcolm, hello. Let me see your face, young man.
I don't know if he's. I don't think he's on yet.
Oh, he's not on?
He's not be on yet.
Okay. But, do I just shut down and leave? You gonna let me see this at some point, so I won't be embarrassing myself?
Oh yeah. I'll let you see it. Like so I'll tell you, we're gonna probably hold the entirety of it on like our website and our YouTube page. But when we try to do the actual documentary, of course, that's when the cut and shuffling comes up. But like I said, like I was telling Malcolm right before, if the documentary never comes up, this can just be used as an oral history. Because I think that, honestly, Dad, I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually talk towards the idea of integration and segregation and how that whole thing went down as far as with black people and things of that nature.
I think it was positive. It has to be. You can't live in isolation all your life. You have to deal with that.
I think that. So this whole thing, and I'll explain this if we ever do the documentary part of it. This whole project kind of stems from an idea that had jumped up to me when I was at Hampton, and of course I wasn't the first person to think of it or say it out loud. Other people thought it too, but it was like, you go to an all-black school and then you're like, man, this is really run well, and there's a lot of pressures, like normal pressures that you just don't feel because everyone's, like you kind of said, everyone's kind of rowing the boat in the same direction. It feels like in that particular area. So you're like, well, I wonder if you did this all the time. Now I do recognize that there was the separate but equal thing never happened. Yeah, that never happened.
Separate happened.
The separate part. Oh no, the separate part was where they put the money in, not the equal part.
Yeah. You remember? Were you with Mom and I when we went down to, I think it was Alabama or somewhere, where they had these Coke machines?
No, I've never been to Alabama.
Okay, we went to this place. It was a civil rights place, and they showed these two Coke machines. On one side of the Coke machine, I think the Coke was 5 cents. That was on the white side. And on the black side of the Coke machine, it was 10 cents. It was a Saint.
So they was charging you for being black. You have black tax for Coke. That's they paying you 10 cents to treat you worse.
And it was something else down there. This is just totally nuts. Other than things like poll taxes and that kind of garbage. Which is still part of 2025 all over again. So anyhow, but I can't even think of some of this stuff anymore. But it's crazy.
So I guess I'll hit leave on here, and I guess it'll probably stop the recording.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hang up.
All right,
you can cut this last part. Anyway, out here.
Yeah, they'll cut the last part.
Okay, right, are you coming over?
Yeah, I'm gonna come over there. We're gonna.
It's raining like 7 o'clock. You ain't coming anytime soon because it's raining like crazy.
Yeah, like 7 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. Good enough.
All right.
Bye.
All right, bye.